Riding in winter doesn't have to mean overly thick gloves with no feel. That's personally something that I really dislike. So I've pulled together 3 sets of gloves for you that will keep your hands warm without you losing the touch that you want. Of course, I'm not alone in disliking big bulky gloves. It's one of the things that can actually make riding in winter not much fun. So I've narrowed down 3 different alternatives. One is a heated glove, which is fairly obvious. 2 is a thin palmed glove with lots of insulation where you need it most. And the third one is a little bit of a curveball. If you watch my channel, you will know that I haven't just taken these gloves out of the packet and started reviewing them. I've worn them as extensively as I can. As a note, I have filmed everything for this video on the Africa Twin so that we had a standard base setting. That bike does have hand guards, and of course I've used the heated grips to see how the gloves perform with those as well. So let's kick off with the first and most obvious choice for a winter glove. And the glove I picked for this is the Keis G701s or shorty glove. The G701s is constructed from ballistic nylon with an element of spandex, which makes it lightweight and stretchable. It has a high pora bonded membrane which offers the waterproofing. We've got a hard knuckle protector, conductive finger and thumb tips, and you've got a plastic guard on the scaphoid. Now these are the shorter version. They do a 701, which is a much longer version. I prefer to have these tucked into my sleeves, which is why I chose the short version, because obviously one of the things you have to do with these is connect them to power, and I'll always connect these through my Keis heated jacket. And having the shorter glove means there's less bulk here, and by the time you connect it up and put it under your sleeve, it means it's much more comfortable. You can obviously wear the longer glove outside your jacket, but then you've got to loop the cable up and out of your cuff to plug into here. So that's the reason why I chose this one. Obviously the key selling point to these is that you have controllable heat. You have this button on the back which gives you access to 3 different settings: high, medium and low, and you can just rotate through those, and that can easily be done either by your hand or by actually knocking it on the underside of your handlebar, which is an easy way to do that without taking your other hand off of the bars. Now, of course, because this is a heated glove, the amount of insulation that goes into this doesn't have to be particularly high. There is, of course, an element of 3M insulation inside this. You need that to try to retain the heat that you're introducing from the heating elements, but also there's still enough insulation in them that you don't have to introduce power. You can use them as a standalone glove, and I've done that quite a lot with these. They're a very comfortable glove I found straight out of the box. Lots of dexterity with them, some nice touch, and a very comfortable pair of gloves to wear all day long. If we look at the cons, then there is a slight trade-off with these. Although you've got that heat introduced and it's controllable, that does mean you do have to have a connection to the bike. So sometimes these can be a little bit more faffy. It's not horrible, but it's the sort of thing on a day, if you're on and off the bike a lot, it just can be a bit of a pain to have to keep unplugging and plugging that in. The pros are lightweight, controllable heat, good touch. The cons are that obviously you need to have a power supply to these, and also I guess the cost of these is a little bit higher than most other gloves as well. These ones retail at £190. If you want to go for the longer glove with the bigger cuff, they're £195, and if you want to run it with batteries as opposed to a constant feed from your bike, you're looking at about another £85 for a set of batteries to power both gloves. So on to the next glove, and my selection is this, the Klim Badlands GTX long glove. The glove is constructed predominantly from goat leather with some textile elements on the back. It has a Gore-Tex liner, and it has what they call Gore grip technology. So you've got the Gore-Tex liner on the outside and the palm, and that means that that palm is kept very thin. In fact, of all of the gloves in this test, this has got the thinnest palm by quite some distance, and that gives you really good feel and touch on the bars. The gloves have hard knuckle protection. You've got a conductive fingertip and thumb for using phone and sat nav. And there's quite a nice long cuff with a double Velcro strap to make sure you can snug that in nice and neat. And the thing I like about these gloves is that isn't bulky, so you can get that under your jacket very nicely. But as you can see, you've got a nice long run up your arm, and it's very securely fixed. You've got a small amount of scaphoid protection. Overall, a very comfortable glove, but it's the inside of these gloves where things start to get a little bit more interesting. There's a really nice elasticated neoprene cuff on the inside, so you get a nice fit on your wrist, stops the air from getting downside. But inside, you've got a combination of 60 grams of cinchlet on the back of the hand, as well as this kind of fleecy, furry material. But because of that, it's an incredibly comfortable and luxurious feeling glove, and that gives you the warmth where you need it. The best use for these is with heated grips. So you've got all of that insulation and loveliness on the outside, but you've got a very thin palm, lots of nice touch and control. Overall, these are a really nice glove. I've been very impressed with these. The pros are that you've got that thin cover on the palm, so touch and feel is exceptional with these. Plus you've got the warmth and insulation from the back of that. The cons, well, they're not going to be as warm as a heated glove, obviously, but also to get the most out of these in really cold weather, then you're going to need heated grips as well to be able to keep the palm warm and get that heat into the glove. Overall though, top performing glove. And now on to the third and final glove, which is a bit of a curveball. It is the Halvarssons Duved lobster glove. These are pretty much a fully goat leather constructed glove. You've just got a small element of stretch in the back of the hand. There's a nice floating hard knuckle, a little bit of scaphoid protection, a Velcro wrist element. But obviously the key thing about these is that split finger design. Inside each of those, you've got an individual pocket for the finger. So the fingers are together, but they're not touching. There is a very thin lining on the inside. So in terms of comfort, they're really nice. They also feature inno-borne insulation, which is very similar to the cinchlet one. These offer really nice touch and grip, not as much as the Klim gloves. You've got that little bit of thicker insulation on the inside, but they are still good. They don't feel like a winter glove, but much like mittens, if you've worn them probably as a kid, or if you wear them skiing or doing winter sports, mittens are always warmer than individual fingered gloves. And that's what you're getting from these. They're split to make sure that you've got a little bit more dexterity. So if you want to pick things up, grab zips, get stuff out of your pockets, it's easier to do than you have with a mitten. You feel like you've got more control on the bike because you can still two-finger brake. If you're a one-finger braker, well, you're just going to have to get used to doing it with two. But overall, once you've got used to the slightly strange feeling when you first put them on, these prove to be much warmer than a glove with the same kind of insulation that's got individual fingers. So the pros for these are that split finger design actually helps to trap heat in the gloves, keeping them warmer with much less bulk. So these feel kind of like a spring autumn glove, but offer much more warmth for you when riding in winter. If you look at the cons for these, well, the initial one is a slight lack of dexterity, or put it this way, you've got slightly less dexterity than you would have with individual fingered gloves, but not much. You soon get used to this, and to be honest, when you're riding, there's not much you need to do other than maybe get something out of your tank bag or open your luggage or pull a zip, and you can do that with these. Anything more detailed that you need to do, generally with any gloves, you're going to pull those gloves off and do that. And that's another thing with these, because you've just got those two pockets, they are very easy and quick to pull on, even if you've got warm, sweaty hands. One thing that's worth noting about these is you do have this little button, like a dot on the thumb. So if you want to use your phone or your sat nav, that is touch sensitive. Obviously there isn't one on the index finger because you're going to have a very big index finger, but you can do it with your thumb, which is a nice touch. And in terms of cost, these are the cheapest of the three, retailing at £100 a pair. So let's just quickly summarize these gloves and who they're going to work for. The heated gloves obviously are the warmest option, but they come with a drawback in connectivity and being connected to the bike. If you're on the bike for long periods of time, you're touring or you're commuting, these are going to work really well. If you're on and off of the bike a lot, they can just become a little bit more fiddly and having to disconnect yourself from the power cable. If you want ultimate feel, then it's the Klim ones to go for. This does feel like a soft, lightweight, flexible summer glove almost, but it's got the insulation on the back that you need, and that gore grip means it works really, really well with heated grips. These have been fantastic. And again, if you're an adventure tourer or you don't want the faff of having batteries or cables connected to you, these are a solid choice. And finally, if you don't mind the strange looks and can get used to the feel of these split finger gloves, then the Duved offer plenty of warmth for minimal bulk. They're a little bit more bulky than something like the Klim glove, but not by very much. But having your two fingers together in these certainly keeps the warmth in your hands, and they work very well indeed. So I hope you found that useful. As I said, I've worn these for quite a few miles to give them the full test, and these are my 3 picks for winter gloves. But I'd be interested to know what gloves you've tried and liked, so let me know in the comments section down below. If you've got any questions about any of these, then pop those in the comments as well. I will leave links in the description to each one of these gloves so you can go away and have a closer look. And all that leaves me to say is until next time, thanks for watching, take care, ride safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.